Hello, I'm Kaiser Clay, and I haven't made a video on this channel in like a decade. Most likely, if you're seeing this, you never saw those videos, so it doesn't really matter to you. But of all things, the things that pulls me out of my metaphorical retirement is, of course, Halo, which is a series that I've been a fan for most of my life, I think, at this point. So, for context, my first Halo game was the PC port of Halo Combat Evolved, and I remember being both very confused and very annoyed when Halo 2 came to PC, but only on Vista. And I was also one of those people. I read the novels, so I was one of those people that said that I told myself that I was done with Halo after Halo 3 because, oh, they already wrote The Fall of Reach. Of course, I didn't really understand that the relationship between Eric Nyland and Bungie was weirdly strained because Bungie didn't treat him or any of the other novelists, for that matter, as far as I know, very well. So I was like, oh, they already made the Fall of Reach novel, so Halo Reach, it has no reason to exist. And then I got it, the limited edition, for Christmas one year, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm back in. And I guess I've been in to some degree or another, even to this day, even though at this point, to me, Halo as a franchise is kind of like a distant relative with stage 4 cancer. You want them to get better, you care about them, but I mean, you're not holding out hope. Like, they're, they've made their peace. I think it's time that we've kind of made our peace too. But that doesn't stop me from bitching about things because ever since I first watched the Pillar of Autumn kind of slide into screen at the beginning of Halo 1, that was the moment that I said to myself, well, it looks like that's what I'm doing with my life. I'm making video games now. And then in college, I learned this piece of software known as Unreal Engine 4, and I've since started making my own game in it. I've since moved on to Unreal Engine 5 because of various reasons that I'm not going to get into. It's kind of beyond the scope of this video. So when I saw that they were making, well, obviously this news came out several months ago, but when I saw this trailer, I had some things to say. Unfortunately, Unreal Engine is kind of in the same position that Unity was in 2014 or 15, where it's sort of given a lot of unfair rap, primarily because of developers not properly understanding what they're doing with it, or I guess in Unreal's case, Epic not putting out proper documentation for certain things. Again, kind of beyond the scope of this video. But what I'm going to do is, from the perspective of both a Halo fan and an Unreal Engine game developer, sort of go through the trailer and give my thoughts on it as best I can. Hopefully this doesn't go on super fucking long. But, we'll see where it goes.
The Covenant believe that what they call the silent cartographer is somewhere under this island.
So, first kind of thing here that a lot of people have been kind of clowning on 3434. Oh, I should say Halo Studios. I'm going to call them 343 Industries or just 343 throughout the duration of this video because it's all mostly the same people. It was always baffling to me that Bonnie Ross and Frank O'Connor had jobs really at all, especially after Halo 5. But again, that's outside the scope of this video. I'm not going to get into that. Anyway, first thing that kind of people picked up on is the pop-in on those plants in the background here.
The Covenant believe that what they call the silent cartographer is somewhere under this island.
Yeah,
The
you can really
cartographer
see
is a
them pop in. And usually I wouldn't be too finicky about that. I wouldn't be too critical. But there's this video, this great GDC talk from several years ago at this point that's on YouTube now called 30 Things I Hate About Your Game Pitch. And there's one piece of advice, one little nugget of knowledge in there that's always stuck with me. And it's basically don't show someone something that both looks bad and like it could be final. Because if something is like if you're showing somebody a prototype of a game that you're making, and right now there are no graphics, so everything is like different colored cylinders and cubes. I don't think that you're going to try and sell that for $20 on Steam. Yeah, I'm going to assume that you're going to replace that at some point. But with
The Covenant believe that what they call the silent cartographer is somewhere under this island.
but with
The
all
cartographer
this,
is a map.
with that pop in of the plants there, I don't know. That could be just how the game is going to look at release. And at first I thought, well, maybe it's like a console hardware limitation thing. Maybe they had to rein it in to get a good frame rate on like the Xbox Series S and the PlayStation 5. But then if that's the case, then there's a whole bunch of other stuff in the level that does not need to be there, that wasn't there in the original game, and is taking up a lot of polygons and a lot of processing power to keep it rendered, that they could have just taken out. Personally, I would have rather had an open ocean surrounding the island if it meant that there was no pop in and no frame rate stutter, which there is a little bit of frame rate stutter, but I'll point it out when we get there.
Room that will lead us to Halo's control center.
Oh, yeah, see?
This island. The cartographer is a map room that will lead us to Halo's control center.
Yeah, just that very slight. Is there a way I can. What's the. Preferences? Okay, yeah, I don't know what any of this is. For the record, I'm using Pot Player to play the video, like streaming it from YouTube. It works way better than YouTube's default player, by the way, to the point where anyway, works a lot better. YouTube is incompetent. Again, that's a discussion for another time. Okay, I know this is a nitpick, but the way the bullet impacts in the water look kind of goofy to me. They look super, like, unfinished. Yep, and you can see the lighting pop in here. Guys, just for the record, when you're using Unreal Engine 5, you do not have to use Lumen or Nanite or any of the other tools in there. My game, for example, uses forward rendering, doesn't use Lumen, doesn't use Nanite, any of that shit. Of course, that also comes with its own issues when I want to simulate Doom's like sector lighting or, having harsh shadows, but that's a separate thing. I don't know if I'm going to talk too much about my game on this channel until after I finish a lot of stuff. Again, outside the scope. But yeah, having the shadows pop in like that against this big structure, again, it both looks bad and like it could be finished. By the way, the shape of this structure to me, like, 343 has this weird problem with Halo's designs where I don't think they fully understand the difference between military science fiction and just science fiction. Because in the original version of the level, this whole thing, it was a much darker shade of gray, and it had kind of like weathering, and I don't know about stress marks, I guess. I wouldn't really know the term. But it looked like it had real rough texture to it. Because the idea is that it's metal, it was built 100,000 years ago, and it hasn't been maintained in all that time. So there's like weathering and erosion on it. Stains, even. And I thought that looked fucking cool. Almost like it was made of concrete in some places. And I liked the shapes of it. There was a lot of roundedness stuff to it. Whereas this is just sort of like a bunch of triangles. And it ends up looking a lot more like a generic alien artifact. Which, of course, the 343's decisions regarding that canon, I'm not going to get into. There's bigger fish to fry right now. I do like that they gave Fohammer a character model. That's cute. I don't know. It's just, it's kind of fan servicey, but it's fun. just reduce the volume a little bit on my end. Makes it easier to think while I see this. So one of the first things that bugs me that sticks out is the user interface. So as you'll see later on in the video, they changed the health system. Whereas in the original Combat Evolved, health was finite, but your shields regenerated. So you still needed to pick up med packs to get up to properly full health. That is no longer the case in Campaign Evolved for some reason. That's going to mess with things. And, like, it says, you can see here on the, oh, that's kind of obnoxious. You can see here on the bottom left and right corners, it says LB for grenade and RT for shooting, presumably. I don't know why that's there. Maybe 343 just assumes that you've never seen a video game before and that you just constantly need to be reminded of what the controls are. That feels obnoxious and stupid. It doesn't need to be there. Anyway. Also, yes, 32 rounds in the assault rifle. It's like Halo 4. One of the few things that I liked about Halo 4 is that the assault rifle was kind of worth using for its own sake. And there's a big-ass garbage truck outside my house. Hopefully that doesn't cause too much noise. But again, they're not making their own game. They're remaking Halo 1. And it seems to me to be kind of disrespectful, especially considering that for a lot of like PlayStation players, for example, this is going to be their first time playing it, to be giving them like a weird sort of adulterated version of the game. Also, maybe I'm crazy, but I think they might have reused some Halo Infinite models for the enemies, which if they did, boo. Boo. That's lazy. That's really lazy. And sprinting. There's sprinting. I'm going to get into that later on. The one thing I actually rather comment on are the designs of the Marines. In Halo 1, the Marines looked a lot more 80s science fiction movie because the whole game was basically like aliens, but as a video game, other than the other Aliens video games that exist. And part of the thing I liked about them was that they I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I really like big, somewhat bulky, somewhat impractical looking plates of armor on regular soldier guys. Yeah, it's not like realistic, but Halo was always like, again, it's military science fiction. It takes science fiction concepts and kind of treats them with a little more seriousness and kind of asks how certain things would be worked into a specific context. And I liked the idea that because the aliens are using plasma weapons, that presumably the armor plates would be like ablative or something, and they would be designed to melt and absorb the impact of the plasma bolts that way rather than just be completely vaporized on contact. But that's just me.
Area secure.
Affirmative. Echo 419 inbound. Somebody order a warthog. Hey, I didn't know you made house calls, Warhammer. You know our motto. We deliver.
Let's go find the map room. That will show us the location of Halo's control center. I've been able to pinpoint the main facility by cross-referencing Covenant survey data and religious texts. We were right. It's
Okay, maybe I'm crazy, but I'm sure you can hear that some of the lines sound from Cortana sound a little bit odd, a little bit off. I don't know if they were re-recorded and they just used specifically weird takes of some of these lines, or they were done by like an AI system, which if they were done by an AI system, boo. You already have the audio files. There's no reason to change them. Because the way she says we were right, well, that's what she's supposed to be saying. In the closed captions, it says we were right. But it comes out in the audio as we were right.
Main facility by cross-referencing Covenant survey data and religious texts. We were right. It's
We were right. Like, nobody talks like that.
on this island. I've marked the entrance with a nav point.
Also, I don't recall there being any particular discussion of where the silent cartographer is. But maybe that's just me. I mean, I don't think Chief was in on that conversation.
There, in the cliff wall. I'll bet the silent cartographer is somewhere inside that facility. They're already inside.
Okay, something else that I'm just noticing now upon watching this. The gun barrel for the Warthog turret gets really red hot really quickly. If your gun barrel is getting that hot that fast, I'd call your manufacturer and fucking, like, hang them. Because they've clearly screwed you over on the metallurgy for that.
There, in the cliff wall. I'll bet the silent cartographer is somewhere
It's
inside
not even
that
really that cool looking of an effect.
They're already inside. We have to get in there and stop them before they learn the location of the control center.
And this whole exchange, this firefight in this hallway looks extremely noisy because of all the different effects and the bump mapping. Or I should say normal mapping on all the pillars and stuff. It just all becomes this weird neon oatmeal that becomes very hard to look at. Or, well, it's not so much that it's hard to look at, it's just that it's hard to read at a glance. I think there was another frame stutter there a second ago.
The Covenant are putting up a real fight. The cartographer must be here. My analysis indicates that the map room should be at the bottom floor of this facility. Let's keep going inside. Don't let them lock the doors. Interesting. I underestimated the Covenant's understanding of Halo's subsystems. We need to find the security override to get this door open.
Cortana to Keys.
Go ahead, Cortana. Have you found the control center?
Negative, Captain. The Covenant have impeded our progress. We can't proceed unless...
Yeah, more pop in there.
Have you found the control center?
Negative, Captain. The Covenant have impeded our progress.
Some frame rate stutters too. And every time I listen to some of these lines, I think they kept some of them the same for Cortana and had other ones be AI generated. It's, I don't know, again, I don't want to accuse anyone of anything. It's possible that these are just weird takes, but there are a few too many like audio tells for me to entirely discount the possibility that they're AI generated, which, you know, again, if so, boo.
We can't proceed unless we can disable this installation's security system.
Understood. We're still en route to the objective. I may be out of contact when we get there. Here are your orders. I want you to use any means necessary to force your way into the facility and find Halo's control center. Good luck, people. Keys out.
Let's move down the beach. Keep an eye out for any unusual structures that could house the security system. It looks like there is a path into the interior of the island.
Okay, I know somebody probably is going to tell me, Clay, why didn't you comment on the hijacking thing? Because, I mean, again, ignoring the fact that it doesn't belong in Halo CE to begin with, the animation looks jank as hell. He kind of pulls the guy out, and then the Marine, like, crouches down and then moves with the vehicle, and then just gets right back in. That's good. It's fine. Ship it.
Down, man. Triggers down. Let's get it going, Marine. That all you got? Area secure. Firing. Here's more where that came from.
Smell one, tossing one. Please.
Yeah, more frame rate drops here and there. So here's kind of the issue with sprint, and I think this section kind of demonstrates it pretty well. Is the problem with sprinting in Halo, especially, is that you can't add something like that in and then keep everything else the same, because the way that the player traverses through the levels informs so much of the timing of certain things on triggers, on spawns, on voice lines running into each other because you're hitting the triggers too quickly. Unless you plan on redesigning every single level to accommodate sprint, which it doesn't look like they've done, then there's not really a good reason to do that. It also kind of cheapens some of the vehicles, because if you have sprint, then most people are going to be like, oh, well, I'll just try sprinting there because it's easier than getting in a vehicle that I don't know how fast it is. And you can kind of see the issue when you run in here, or when the player, I said, runs in here. And the idea is supposed to be that the hunters come out from both sides of those doors, and they look all big and intimidating, and you're like, oh shit, hunters. But as it stands, the timing is weird on it because of the sprinting, and now it's like you're opening a door, and somebody is like directly on the other side, and you're like, oh, sorry, I didn't realize you were right about to open the door. And you kind of have to, one of them has to decide who's going to step to the side to let the other person through first.
Use the holo.
The animation for sprinting too looks dumb. IMO. He's like pumping his arms in front of his own face. And there's the speed lines too. It just, like, yeah, I know we're sprinting. Really, it should probably just be like he lowers his weapon and just runs. But I guess that wouldn't be obvious enough. And you might say, Clay, why do you care so much? It's just sprinting. And from what I understand, from what I've been told, you can turn it off too. Which, if so, that is debatably even worse. Here's the thing, right? I am generally pro customization in general. I think players should be allowed as many options as the developers feel like putting in the work to implement so that players can have whatever experience they want. On the condition that there is a big, flashing, bright neon sign with, flames coming out of it and alarm siren sounds, whatever, that says, these are the particular options or these are the particular circumstances under which the game was designed. You need to have like a developer intent mode, with your difficulty levels or whatever, because otherwise, how the hell am I supposed to criticize the game? It just looks like cowardice on the part of the designers, right? You're just hoping that the fan base will design the game for you and balance it for you. And I'm not even saying that I'm like any good at or like that great at, game design and development. Yeah, I'm sure I've made plenty of mistakes, right? I'm not I wouldn't say that my enemy designs are particularly good. But I also haven't been making these games for 13 years. And I haven't been making the same mistakes over and over again for those 13 years. You might say, Clay, it's 343's vision. It's how they want to make the game. Clearly, Sprint is here to stay. And, in Halo 4 and 5 and Infinite, I guess I can accept that because those games were like, okay, well, Sprint is just there. The game is sort of designed around it for the most part. Like, okay, fine, whatever. Even though there are still issues that come about as a direct result of Sprint being present in the game, in the level design and all that. Sorry, I'm gonna let this play just so you guys have something to actually look at for a minute. In spite of that, Combat Evolved is not 343's game. These aren't their pants to be shitting. Does that make sense?
Good. That should open the door that leads into the main shaft. We need to go to the main facility. Let's head back down the beach.
Anyway.
Dropship Bravo 22 taking enemy fire. Repeat, we are under
Yeah, and again, because of the sprinting, he just almost runs right past the invisible elites.
Understood. We're on our way.
Chief, Bravo 22 was bringing us some heavy weapons. After I saw we were up against hunters, I thought you could use them.
More pop in over here. Oh, yeah. Some more frame rate drops a little bit. I like how he's waving his rifle around like he's checking his corners, even though he's in a fucking hallway. So, okay, this is like my most nitpicky nitpick. This one I'll freely admit is like a stupid criticism to have. But while I generally like the Mark V Mjolnir model that they've got going on here, this like stomach piece here, the way he moves with that on, it kind of looks like he's having to constantly puff out his stomach ever so slightly to keep it from irritating his skin. Like, I'm imagining someone who's doing like who's really into 3D printing doing a Master Chief cosplay for Halloween or something, and they make all these pieces, but they don't have time to sand down the sharp edges of them. So they kind of have to like readjust their torso every couple of seconds to keep it from jutting into their skin. Creates this weird convex shape on his torso. And so that's that. Final thoughts are I've seen some people say in relation to this that it looks like they did the whole Nintendo hire this man thing and then they hired that man. I don't know if that's entirely fair. I think there are parts of it that look. I think the big problem is that 343 just fundamentally doesn't understand Halo. It's not an engine thing. It's not a technical competence thing. It's that 343 doesn't understand the difference between how Installation 04 was designed after the Pacific Northwest and how Delta Halo was designed after a jungle. And how on Silent Cartographer in some of these places it feels like it kind of wants to be a jungle island in places because of all the vines and all that. Even though that's not supposed to be what it is. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's 343. I don't really have that much hope for it. It's a work in progress, but I mean, in the run up to any game's launch, they're going to be focusing on the bugs that are game breaking or things that cause like actual problems. The texture pop in or model pop in the distance on plants on in a cutscene is not going to be their first priority, which is understandable to an extent. But then we got to ask ourselves, well, where is that effort going? Because I was also told that there are going to be 3 prequel missions that are completely, new original content that takes place before the events of Halo 1. So I don't know where the hell what that's going to be about. Maybe it's Master Chief and friends on that one space station above Reach. Could be. But yeah, hopefully this wasn't too bad. Hopefully you got something out of this. And in any case, thank you for watching.